So you see, everything we learn, when you apply it to the nitty-gritty details, it takes some time. Most helpful is really to learn the Dharma, to learn it in all its details, because then sooner or later you'll learn how to apply it in the way I talked about it this morning. I mean, the same ideas, it's just coming, whatever, it's actually not dependent on others. It's actually not dependent. If it all comes from our own side, that's sufficient. In the sense, like, if they don't like us, they like us or they don't. If we like them, that's enough. And sooner or later, they will like us because they do feel understood, they feel heard, right? Heard, not hurt. They feel heard, they feel seen, and so forth. So sooner or later, they will like us. It's too hard to wait for their response and then act or react accordingly. So yes, that's important. But it's not that easy to figure out all these details. And for that, we need to first learn. But please bring in your own wisdom. Because, you see, when we take refuge, for instance, and I haven't really talked about that, it seems to be there's only the external Buddha. But there's actually also an internal Buddha. We're taking refuge also in our future Buddha, in the sense that we have everything to be a Buddha, so we have all the ingredients already. But of course, we're not Buddha yet. But in that way, we take refuge in that potential and in the future Buddha we're going to become. So there's outside and there's inside, and those need to become closer, or we need to bring them closer. That's important. But also realize now you have this incredible understanding and wisdom, and utilize that at all times. So when you learn about the Dharma, whatever you hear, always with the back of your mind, this is a personal instruction. This is meant to help me to deal with everyday life's challenges. How can I bring it into my life so that I can effectively now deal with everyday life's challenges? That's most important. Just walking away with some abstract idea about this, that, and the other, that's not the purpose of the Dharma. The purpose of the Dharma is really to make life easier. That's the first step. To help deal with our problems, become aware of our problems, first of all, become more aware of our mind, of how much comes from our own mind, become more aware of the law of cause and effect, dependence on causes and conditions. So to also realize every experience I have is the result of causes and conditions in the past, which means actions that I have done, even if it was millions of years ago. It's not like in your past life you must have been, I don't know, abusing people, so because in this life you experience abuse. No, it can go back so many lifetimes. And we're not that person any longer who was maybe, if we experience someone being rude to us, and we think, oh, I must have been rude to someone else, and we think in this lifetime, no, I wasn't. In the previous, oh, I must have been a terrible person. Then it's like, huh? How could I not be like that now? And we misunderstand. But we have to realize it doesn't have to be just a short while ago. And we should never think, I deserve to suffer. Karma is not about saying people deserve. No one deserves to suffer. Let me give you an example. I once met someone who, when they arrived in Calcutta, they thought, well, I better get used to the water. I better drink it straight from the tap. That way I get used to, right? So they got violently sick, obviously. Maybe if he'd just taken a mini drop, this person would have, but he drank from the water in Calcutta, like that was many years ago. So I'm sure the water is much cleaner now, but then it probably wasn't. So would you feel he deserves it? No, that was out of not knowing. No one deserves to be sick. But he thought that this would strengthen his immune system, and that's why he did it. The idea was okay, but of course the amount was, I guess, the issue. I mean, vaccination, that's the same principle. You basically, like vaccination, you inject that particular thing that makes you sick and you generate immunity. So it actually works. However, not in the way he did it. So that was out of not knowing. Out of not knowing, he got very, very sick. And we would never think this person deserves to be sick. I mean, if we were to think that, then it would be simply wrong. Because it's just out of not knowing. Thinking they're going to be fine. Thinking. And this is similar to our actions as well. No one is setting out to harm others because they think it's going to get them a lot of suffering and they look forward to that. No, the opposite. They think, oh, it's going to make them happy without thinking of the other person. If they were to put themselves into the other person's shoe, they wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, honestly, like I said before, I sometimes lashed out at people. I'm sure, like especially in high school, I lashed out at people. But the other person wasn't on my mind. How they felt wasn't on my mind. And if they shared at some point, you were rude to me, I realized, oh my God, that wasn't my intention. I didn't even think about it. I just said something because I was in a bad mood. And I wasn't even thinking it would hurt the person. Yeah, I don't remember exactly whether this happened exactly in that way, but I'm pretty sure, it sounds familiar, that I talked to someone in a particular way and later on they said, that sounded really rude. And I'm like, oh, but that wasn't my intention at all. And I probably couldn't recollect why I talked to them in that way, but I know it wasn't my intention. However, I hadn't put myself into their position and heard it the way they heard it, or imagined at least, and I would have felt exactly the same way, I'm pretty sure, if not stronger about it, but I hadn't done that, and that was my failure in that moment. So what I'm saying is, therefore, we sometimes don't realize how we come across, and we do sometimes do things, and if we hurt another person and we just don't care, well, then of course we suffer the consequences. But that doesn't mean we deserve it, because we didn't know, we didn't deserve it in the sense it was out of ignorance. Out of ignorance, it's just ignorance, good old ignorance. And that is true for everyone else, whoever suffers. Sure, there are consequences in the past, but they don't deserve it. They did something a long time ago, and now it catches up with them in the form of that experience. And they absolutely don't deserve that. It's just not knowing. And I know what that is like. Not knowing and doing, it's the afflictions. Therefore, first of all, karma should never be used to tell someone it's your karma. Never, ever, 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 ever. Never, ever, ever. I made a mistake once when I said it was. I taught the Emory program, remember I told you about it? And so I had, in one class, there was a girl, a lovely girl. She had been raped by someone at the university she was from. She was from a university, I don't remember where it was, but she got raped. And the university took action, which was very good of them. So they took action. And the boy was I don't know, he was brought to court. He was, you know, what do you call that? They went to the police and they made an pardon? They registered a case against him. They charged him. That's the word. Yeah, they charged him. But actually, she felt she didn't want to destroy his life. So she spoke out in his favor, and she made it go away. That was so graceful. That was so amazing of her to do this, because he would have had a record. He was older than 18, so he was no longer juvenile. So he would have, it would have been part of his record. And she didn't want that to happen to him. And very gracefully, or no, very graciously, she dropped the charges. But she suffered so much from the abuse. She really suffered from it. So she had taken that step, and still she suffered from it. So I remember teaching a class, and we talked about karma and so forth. And she asked in class, is everything we experience the result of past actions? And I knew her background. I was told in the beginning, so I knew her situation. And I was thinking to answer soon, so I was like, And then I thought, well, should I just say no, and that's not the truth? Or should I say yes and upset her? So I tried as gently as I could to say, I couldn't do the first. I couldn't just say no. And I said, well, not everything is, but I think usually the situations, like situations we experience, they're a reflection of what comes from our mind. And millions of years ago, I said all that. She got up and she left. Couldn't bear it. She couldn't bear it. And the director said I had to apologize to her. And I was like, I had to swallow first. But I got it, because it didn't matter. I apologized. What's going to happen? No, it's not going to harm me. And if it's so hard for her, and if that meant she couldn't listen to the Dharma after that, and everyone else heard what I said, so for them at least they could take it and it was fine. So I didn't say something in public that wasn't true. So at least they still heard about karma the way I wanted them to hear about it. But I did say to her, I apologized. I said, I'm really, really sorry. I thought about it again. And His Holiness has said, oftentimes not everything is karma, which he has said, but he usually says the fact that everything changes, that's not karma. How it changes is karma, but not that it changes. So just change, or the lack of inherent existence, that's not our karma. It just is. So there are things that are not the result of karma. That's important. Does that make sense?
Not able to grasp it fully.
For instance, just the fact that phenomena lack inherent existence, that's not the result of my action or your action. So if we hadn't accumulated that action, things would be inherently existent.
But then what about this event which happened with the girl?
No. There's a difference between saying a personal situation you experience, right? That is, of course, the result of a past action. But just the fact that, karma itself, for instance, the law of karma itself, that is not the karma of someone's person, that this exists. It just exists. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's certain, for instance, the law of gravity is a law of nature, but that we were born in a world where there was this law of gravity exists, that we're exposed to it, that is our karma. Or the fact that things change moment by moment, right? Everything changes moment by moment. That is not created. That was not created by someone's karma. That was not created. It just is. You see? So they say it just is. It's not like you did something in the past that now created the fact that is now responsible, or all of us did something in the past that is now responsible for all of us to experience change. And if we hadn't created something in the past, things wouldn't be changing. It's not like that, you see? But in her case, it's like if she hadn't done whatever she did, then that wouldn't happen to her. But what's also important is that it could have just been a minor thing that was nothing to do with rape, could have been something else, but karma grows. It magnifies, they say. They say it's like karma, then the action has been completed, a karmic action has been completed, it leaves like a potential that is usually described as a seed, because a seed has a potential, so they call it seed. So, for instance, you accuse someone, let's say you know someone is going to rape someone else, but you're busy and you don't let this person know, for instance, something like that. So you're indifferent to it. Could happen. We're often indifferent and we don't intend to harm someone, but we don't think in that moment. Well, let's say just that moment of indifference, it leaves something on our mind, like a potential. And it's non-physical, so it's not like our head is fuller now or anything, no. But then that starts to grow stronger. If it's not purified, it enhances, it magnifies. So just as a seed can grow into an entire tree, so likewise a karmic seed, positive is the same, a small positive action can grow into something amazing, but this negative one can also change so that nothing is done, it's not purified by another positive counteractive force. And that doesn't mean you have to do Buddhist purifications, just virtuous actions oftentimes purify negative ones, and negative actions destroy positive ones. It's a constant change in our mind. But in this case, it may have just multiplied. It wasn't purified by some positive action, it just didn't happen. And then she experienced the rape. And this being indifferent to what happens could have been millions and trillions of lifetimes ago. So therefore, it doesn't make sense to identify with it, really, because that's so long ago. But it was so raw for her. It was so painful for her. She so strongly identified with what happened to her and she hadn't been with the Dharma. I hadn't explained enough. The best solution was just say, it's not. And sooner or later, she probably found out it was. But at that point, hopefully, she was able to deal with that. And that was fine. It was a really good solution for me to apologize and slightly change it. And it was just with her. I didn't have to say it publicly in class, because that would have, maybe other people would have thought, oh, karma is weird. Rape is not the result of karma. You know, like any situation is not the result of karma. That's weird. Yeah. Yes, Tyler.
So, like, I think this is the Buddhism is so wise, and I'm like bought into so much of it, and I think we should all live as if karma is real. And I think that's a beautiful thing to teach to children.
You remember I said in the beginning, it's like a win-win situation.
Yeah,
Karma and
the concept of it, right?
Yeah.
But like the same logic, and obviously it's sensitive. You being like a German, if we extend this back to the Holocaust, the most horrific thing. I know we don't like to use the word deserving. I've heard other monastics say, no, it's not deserving, but in some ways you're kind of saying it is, and that feels so wrong and so untrue that all of these innocent Jews, the children, in some previous life had some seeds that led to that. That just feels so wrong. And
No. Let me add something to that. Because there's something very important about the rape, the Holocaust that I haven't mentioned yet. We all accumulated the karma to be raped, by the way. We all accumulated the karma to die in a Holocaust. That is very important. All of us. Because think, we've existed since beginningless time. There was no time when we could have not done this, that, and the other. If we had every relationship with everyone, if it's possible that everyone has been our mother, limitless time, the logic that supports that also supports the logic that there's not a single horrific action that we haven't done. That's very, very important, because otherwise, and I didn't mention that in the context of her, but I'm glad you're pointing it out, because otherwise I may think I'm better than her, because this didn't happen to me, so I did not do anything. Don't let you, we have done everything. We basically all have the karma to die in a Holocaust. But the question now I have to answer is, why did some and others didn't at that time? Because it's not just karma, it's also external triggers. You see, when I said earlier, to die in an airplane crash, let's say we've accumulated the karma to die in an airplane crash.
Which we all have, which you would say, right?
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
right? You need the karma and you need an airplane. Or to die in a knife accident. So we think, oh, there were no airplanes on this planet until like, but there are other planets, there are other world systems, there are other galaxies. How do we know there weren't airplanes then? We just think of this world. We're so fixated on there's just one world, but even modern science tells us, well, there are endless galaxies. There must be life on other planets. We just haven't been able to or managed to get there yet. Or they haven't come here, or they have come here, and so, you know, but we just haven't really realized it yet. Only a very few people we call crazy. But the point is, just to get back to this, so we always need an external trigger, right? An external trigger. So it's not everything is karma, that's important. That we die in a Holocaust, for instance, yes. But the thing is, we may have died in a previous life in a Holocaust, so that karma is lessened. So like, let's say, I just died 200 years ago in some genocide. I may have died then. So part of that heavy karma is kind of a little bit, there's still karma left, but it's less likely that it happens, like it's such a horrific, terrible karma, that it happens that soon. So as soon as the present one, in my case, it didn't happen. Or the karma was also such that it happened through a German government. Now, and if I had the karma to die in a Spanish Holocaust, and none happened at the time when I lived in Germany, like let's say I lived in Germany as a German person, but didn't have the karma to die in a German Holocaust, then even if I was Jewish, I would survive. You see what I'm saying? So it's the external trigger. There's so many details. So for instance, there's karma, to give you a little bit more of a sense of that. You have the karma to get rich. You have the karma to get rich. But it could be the karma to get rich without doing anything. It could be the karma to get rich by working reasonably a lot. I mean, kind of a little bit, you get rich. You have the karma to get rich to buy a lottery ticket, or you have the karma to get rich to work like you until you collapse, right? In the first case, don't do anything. I'm probably born into a rich family, or someone hands you a crazy amount of money. Great, but that's not true for everyone. Yeah, you still have to do something. At the very least, buy a lottery ticket. Yeah? So the point is, therefore, karma is not like you've done something, kind of, I don't know, whatever it is that makes us, that causes us to be killed in a Holocaust, but all these other causes and conditions. There are many, many causes and conditions, not just one karma. It's many, many, many different actions, many actions. So some people left the country, so somehow they had accumulated the causes and conditions for them to know that this may happen, to be able to let everything behind and leave. Yeah? And others, and everyone's experience was different. That also needs to be told. I mean, some had most horrific, and I guess it's worse to be in a concentration camp for years on end and then be killed versus right from the beginning. In a way, like in terms of the incredible suffering. So everyone's experience is different. However, when we look at the whole picture, we all have the karma. You can't say this person has a karma except you're already enlightened or liberated. That's different. But as ordinary beings, there's no one better. Logically, you can't say one is better than the other. You can't. But the circumstances are different, the triggers are different. That's why, if I have the karma to be killed in a certain circumstance and that hasn't arisen right now, it's not going to happen to me right now. But I can never be safe. That's why you can never be safe. You don't know. Like, to feel safe, like if every time I take a plane, or even in a car, not every time, but oftentimes in a plane, especially because I don't take planes that often, I'm thinking, maybe this is my karma. I don't know, maybe all the circumstances have come together. I feel so safe, but you can't feel safe. Unless we start very effectively purify negative karma. And still then, we hear of great bodhisattvas who suddenly get killed. I mean, Kyabchen Rinpoche had a terrible accident once with a car, and his leg was broken in a very complicated way. So either he just manifested it as a Buddha, if he's already a Buddha, or if he's on the way to becoming a Buddha, he's definitely very highly advanced, he could have still experienced the result of karma. It's possible. You see, oftentimes when we learn about the Dharma, we do something very funny. We look at a Lama, and sometimes in the teachings, it suggests, see the Lama as a Buddha, right? Especially in the tantric context. But that needs to be really explained. It doesn't literally mean the Lama is a Buddha. But if they're highly advanced, it doesn't matter. They're not likely to do things that are non-Buddha-like. So there's no huge disappointment. But you get the full benefit. If you believe them to be a Buddha, and you regard them as a Buddha, and you pay them respect with that in mind, you get so much benefit, right? You get incredible benefit. If you believe someone is fully enlightened, like even if you take the statue and you believe them to be the actual Buddha, you get incredible benefit. Because you're visualizing them to be the actual Buddha, and the actual Buddhas work for the benefit of all sentient beings, so you get the full benefit. It's just the power of the mind. You visualize that. You're safe with statues. They're not going to go and commit murder, so pretty safe with statues. So to think they're the actual, that's why we do it. It's not thinking this is an actual Buddha. That's ridiculous. It's a statue. But it helps us to think this is the actual Buddha. To keep your mind focused, to use your, sorry, to use your eye consciousness, because the Buddha can be anywhere. The Buddha is everywhere. Because the Buddha's mind is everywhere, actually. They're not limited like we are to a certain place. The Buddha's mind is everywhere. So it's not even make-believe. However, this reminds me to think, oh, the Buddha is everywhere. So to think the Buddha is there. That's just good for my mind. And then I pay respect. I pay it towards the altar. I don't think the Buddha is literally, I literally see the Buddha. I know it's a representation. I know the statue is a statue. But, as I said, if I remind myself, oh, the Buddhas are everywhere, so he's there as well, then I get the full benefit. You see what I'm saying? So when I have a Lama, and I have to be very, very sure to test this Lama well. Because if I see any fault, I'm thinking the Buddha has a fault and I have a big problem. So only when you're highly advanced, and this is the importance is this, no one is supposed to think the Lama is a Buddha. We misunderstand that. We hear it's the best in general. Tyler, just a sec. We hear it's the best in general when you're highly advanced, so we usually can't wait to do the more highly advanced practices, so we jump into it. But actually, this is very dangerous. If you believe too early, if you see a highly advanced Lama and you start seeing faults in them, then you start seeing faults in the Buddha, and you're like, Buddhahood is not the real deal. And you move away from it. That's if you are on the way to become a Buddha, if you were really believing in that and you were walking in that, moving in that direction, and you give it up, it's terrible. This harms all sentient beings. You made that commitment, or it doesn't harm all sentient beings, but it's such a loss for the world. Let's put it that way. It's such a loss. Let's say you were moving in that direction to add the club of Buddhas, and you have special connection to certain beings. Potentially, you would have been moving faster towards benefiting these beings in a very profound way. That's such a loss. Therefore, it's very important to avoid that, because you can have very profound wrong view when you believe your Lama to be a Buddha. They do certain things you think inappropriate. End of story. Therefore, test well. You shouldn't just think an ordinary person is a Buddha. We really get into trouble then, because they do lots of crazy stuff sometimes. We don't know whether they're not Buddhas doing crazy stuff to benefit us, but to be on the safe side, test your Lama well. That's why Lama Tsongkhapa said, if you want to take on the Lama, test this person for 10 years before starting to see them as a Buddha. Nowadays, we're so desperate to have a Lama. We take the first person we come along. Okay, they're Lama. They have some fame. Okay, my Lama. And now I see them as a Buddha. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. To accept them as a Lama is okay, of course. But to see them as a Buddha right away, no, don't do that. Don't see them as a Buddha, because if they do something that you may deem inappropriate, you get into a lot of trouble. You lose faith. You see what I'm saying? So that is extremely important, and I keep saying it again and again, because we're likely to make that mistake. We hear other people have a Lama and they even refer to them as a Buddha, and we think we have to do the same thing. Just because people do it, we don't know what level they're on, and we don't know whether it doesn't harm us actually. Yeah, so I wanted to say that. Well, how did I get there? How did I get there with the... Karma? No. That was long. Pardon?
We were like deserving and then karma accumulated.
Yeah, that's right. But how did I get from there to the Lama? Sorry, I have to color my thoughts a little better.
Everything came causes and condition. Then you gave the example of this Lama who got into accident.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Oh, thank you. That's how it was. Yeah. So we don't need to see them as lamas, but we make the mistake that sometimes we believe any tulku must be a Buddha, and we don't realize that there's a lot in between. That there are tulkus that are bodhisattvas. So they are rinpoches. We call them rinpoches. The usual word is tulkus. They may just not be in the beginning. They are recognized rinpoches who have not even entered the bodhisattva path. They are. I mean, there are a lot of rinpoches recognized they were great geshes in their previous life. They were great geshes. And they had a lot of students, and they were inspiring, but that doesn't even mean they have entered the Mahayana path. They could still be. You have to do so much before you even enter the path of the universal vehicle. Before you have bodhicitta, you must have great compassion. All this is very difficult to get to. So if we have a teacher who's achieved that, and we have a karmic connection, to us it doesn't matter whether they're a Buddha or not, we fully benefit from them. And they could have been recognized as a tulku. They haven't even generated bodhicitta yet. It's not everyone. My teachers would always point it out. Us Westerners are usually the ones who don't understand that. We think everyone is as Westerners, as non-Tibetans. The Tibetans really know that. Just because someone is a tulku doesn't even mean they're a bodhisattva. Many are, but not everyone is. Not every Rinpoche is actually a reincarnation of the person that they say they were. My teachers always stress that. They said, don't believe that every tulku is really a reincarnated Lama. Sometimes you see, His Holiness may even sometimes say, this is the reincarnation, knowing very well that they're not. My teacher said that so many times. Because it's good for a particular group of students. This Lama hasn't reincarnated in such a way that they are back. They don't want to. They didn't want to be recognized. There are actually Lamas who say, don't search for me in my next lifetime. They don't want to. They want to have another lifetime in between when they're not in the position of the Lama, right? So they ask not to be recognized. It happens. So this is how my teacher, again Gensula explained it to me. So he said that sometimes if they're not reincarnated for whatever reason, at least not here, then they choose someone who, because like His Holiness would recognize that this group of people would really benefit from someone. So they choose someone who still has certain qualities to take on the job, and they're not necessarily the reincarnation. And if then they act in a way that is disappointing, you could think, okay, maybe that just wasn't, right? And that's true, that's not unrealistic. It does happen. It does happen. So the point is not to rely on them right away blindly, but to check. It may also not be our karma for them to be that incredible person. We have a different karma. They may manifest in a different way. So we have to be super careful. The whole Rinpoche issue is very, very complicated. And Tibetans, the way they do it, they're very respectful. They're always respectful towards a Rinpoche. So you don't need to be disrespectful. But they're also careful. When the Lama tells them something to do, they check, is it in accordance with the Dharma or not? And if they do something that is weird, well, can it be this? Can it be that? They don't necessarily condemn them right away. Kind of like, oh, this is a bad Lama, and you make a whole story out of it. So they're very, very careful. Not everything is the way it seems. So to be careful, Guru devotion is the most difficult practice. Not because of the Guru, it's because we have impure vision. We see faults in people when they don't have them. And we sometimes see people as perfect when they're not. And all that is a huge obstacle. So therefore, to be safe, analyze and check, be skeptical at all times, and take it slowly. Slowly. You don't have to do everything that tells you. If they tell you something you can't do, with respect, you tell them, I can't do it for now. I don't think I can do. Is it possible to do something else? Versus to just say, yes, I will, and not do it altogether. Communicate. People sometimes say this, it's so funny. They say, I don't need to tell my teacher, they know. You don't know whether they know. And even if they do know, they manifest as an ordinary person. You still need to tell them. Don't just trust they know, and then you're disappointed if they don't behave as if they know. Okay? So I'm just saying this to those who are really interested in Guru devotion. It is difficult and we have to be careful. The best thing is to follow their teachings, right? To follow their teachings, to whatever they teach, if that's the Dharma. And then if they ask us something to do, to be honest about it, whether we can do it or not, and see what happens, but not to see them as Buddhas right away. That's such a problem. Yeah, it has led to so many problems that people just talk bad about the Lama. If you receive a tantric empowerment from someone, there's a huge commitment. Don't easily take an empowerment. Don't jump into Tantra, just any Lama giving in, because that is a commitment. You're making a commitment. And if you break that, you really harm yourself. So in other words, don't jump readily into Tantra unless you believe you really want to practice and you know you can fully trust the Lama. As long as the Dalai Lama, you can fully trust. That's the good things. There are certain Lamas we don't need to check, or in the sense that, at least not from the side of the Lama, there's no problem. So if you receive, of course, an empowerment by someone like His Holiness, no problem. But don't rush into it. Don't rush into it. Yeah. So I don't know whether I'm saying something that no one even is interested in, but I'm saying it in general. So maybe please remember, even for the future, I've seen it time and again, trying to, instead of going every step slowly, trying to get to the highest. And honestly, I know a lot of Westerners who practice Tantra and have no idea of the basics. They have no idea. I know personally one person who does these incredible tantric practices. They don't know anything about the rest. And I'm thinking, wow, why don't they go back and learn all this? Because they don't have the basis for Tantra. Yeah? And especially, I need to look at myself as a Westerner. We want the best and the fastest right away, and we jump into it. Very important to take it slow. And watch the Tibetans. They really have a good way to do it. Okay, sorry. This was something I'm a little bit way off here, but I've seen it so many times. Tyler, you wanted to say something? Okay, yes.
You have mentioned walking the Mahayana path, like in a lot of conversations, right? And I'm not able to understand what exactly it is, because what I see is that even all the monks and nuns, you said you don't have to be a monk or a nun to
That's
walk
true.
the Mahayana path.
Yes.
But then it is called a Mahayana tradition, right?
Pardon?
This is called a Mahayana tradition, right?
What is called the Mahayana tradition?
Whatever we are studying and this, like the practices we do for all sentient beings. So what's the difference then between the Mahayana path and the tradition which we are following?
I don't understand your question.
What exactly?
What does it have to do with monks and nuns? I mean, I understand what is the difference between this tradition and the Mahayana tradition. I can answer that easily. Not every Mahayana tradition is the Tibetan tradition. There are Mahayana traditions in Vietnam and China, but I don't think you were asking that because you were asking about monks and nuns.
No, like what exactly would be Mahayana path?
What is the Mahayana path, just in general?
Yeah.
Okay. The Mahayana path, okay. The Mahayana path are the practices that you do when you have bodhicitta. Whatever Dharma practice you do, once you have developed bodhicitta and you don't lose it, then every practice becomes a Mahayana practice. Okay? Yeah, all right. So, do you have to be a monk or nun to generate bodhicitta? No. It's not about it's not like you can only become a bodhisattva if you have the vows we have. No. No, you don't need to have any vows. You can take vows. You can take vows as a lay person as well. In some traditions, they do say you can't take the vow of a bodhisattva before you have so there's definitely in our text, it's very clear that it says you should have taken some vows. You could take the lay person's vow of not killing. One. Just take that. You could take just that. And then you have a vow. And based on that, you can then take the Bodhisattva vow. So you see, you don't have to be a monk or nun. Absolutely not. It's all about, going back to what I talked about, generating great compassion, which takes in all sentient beings, wants to help all sentient beings, and then find the means to do so, which is Buddhahood. And then when you combine the two, you have this mind, I want to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, with having that mind in such a way that it rises naturally now. It's called uncontrived bodhicitta. First it's contrived. Contrived means you have to make an extra effort every time. It doesn't come naturally. It doesn't arise spontaneously. That is still contrived. But with everything, you get used to it. You familiarize more and more and more. When it becomes the mind that this is your main goal in life, you can work. You can have a family. You can work. If it's done for the benefit of all sentient beings, right? If everything you do, if like, for instance, you eat your food and you're thinking, I'm eating my food to keep strong and healthy so that I can work for the benefit of all sentient beings. It becomes a bodhisattva practice. If you open a door and you're saying, I'm opening this door for the benefit of all sentient beings, and it enables me to take something out that I need to do. You know, like, that's the beauty of it. It's your motivation. Which is why in the beginning of this class, to make it most effective, we generate bodhicitta. Because then whatever you do, it's the power of all sentient beings supporting you, because that was your initial motivation. And if it's just like, ugh, they all do it, I do it as well, but I don't know why, then it's not really going to do it. You have to really fake it. I mean, in the sense of like, really think like you're like a bodhisattva. Like, it's really, you may not feel like that way ordinarily, but in that moment you do it. And it has this profound effect on the mind. So it's really that motivation that turns all your actions, that changes all your actions, right? So if then, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has this ingenious way saying, when you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, remember, so it's the kind of mindfulness bringing bodhicitta in. I'm doing it for the benefit of all sentient beings. I'm cleaning my mouth. I'm purifying all sentient beings as I cleanse my mouth. I eat for the benefit of all sentient beings. As I walk downstairs, I'm walking into the lower realms to help sentient beings. If I walk upstairs, I take everyone with me. Whatever you want to do, it's mind training. You can visualize whatever you do, but as long as you do it for the benefit of all sentient beings, I do it for the benefit of everyone. If you keep that running, everything you do becomes your practice. Everything becomes your practice. It's just the self-centered mind will probably protest sooner or later and pop in there and make it difficult. So don't be surprised. You won't be able to uphold that for that long, but then work with the antidotes. When the self-cherishing mind comes in, deal with it effectively, let it go, bring back bodhicitta, right? Don't suppress the self-centered mind. Gently deal with it. Don't push it away. Accept it, see it, apply the antidote, go back, right? Do you have to be a monk or nun for that? No, but for some people it's easier that way. For some people. The vows we have a set of vows. They can make you feel freer, or it's the opposite. There's two possibilities. Either you feel more freedom, or you feel restricted. In what way may you feel more freedom? I don't have to make a decision how I'm going to have my hair done the next week. For me, that was huge freedom. Right? Short, long, which color, curls or no curls. No, I don't have to spend any time. You know, I take a cloth, done. So the hair is really easy. It's so much easier. It gives me freedom. The clothes, I mean, to tell you a secret, there are a lot of shades of maroon, right? But in the end, it's maroon. So it's all you have to choose, and whatever is available, every 5 years, however long they last you. If you wash them too often, don't wash them too often. try to keep clean, but don't wash them too often, because then you have to do them. I try to keep it to a minimum. I'd rather have a shower once more. I don't like to wash. It takes forever, and then they're, anyway, that's just me. But the point is, you buy them every now and then. Hopefully they get the size right, which is challenging for Westerners, or for someone my size. But anyway, I'm not that tall, but taller than my Tibetan nun friends. Then life is easier. Life is easier. Certain things I don't need to make a decision on because I have a vow, that's already done it. Now I have more freedom to do other things. But it also restricts me in certain ways, which for some people would be difficult. I can't do certain things. I mean, it's incredible practice to be with another person. It is an incredible practice. It's an incredible practice to have children. So I'm missing out on that, but since I don't want to, it's not a problem. If you do want to, you feel the vows restrict you. There are lamas who are not monks and nuns. In fact, they never were monks and nuns. They were never ordained. Part of their tradition is that they pass on their position to a family member. They usually have very special sons or daughters, so it's passed on. It's a different way of reincarnation. Like it's not like every lama is necessarily the reincarnation of the predecessor. In some tradition, the head of a particular tradition, and even in the Gelug tradition, the head of the Gelug tradition is not a reincarnated lama, by the way. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is not the head of the Gelug tradition. He's not the head of any tradition. He's just accepted to be the head, the spiritual and political head of the Tibetans, but he's a Gelugpa Lama, but he's not the head of the Gelug tradition. It's someone else who has undergone a lot of training, has had a lot of different positions, and then takes on that role for some time. That's it. And in some other traditions, the head is like, it's a family, and they're usually very special. So there are reincarnated lamas, definitely. Like who's born in that family must have incredible background. You're not easily born in that family. But that it's not a matter of being recognized as this or that person. It's just being born as such a son. Usually in this case, it's a male lineage. So the firstborn son of that person will take over. It's like that. And they take turns. There are two families, and then they take turns. So the point is really, you don't need to be monk or nun. I'm giving you all that nitty-gritty detail that is not helpful for you right now. However, it's good to know a little bit about the background, because to just know some bits, other parts are confusing, and that confusion can actually keep you from fully practicing. So I think it's important to know, first of all, yes, there are many lamas, amazing lamas, just like His Holiness, right? Just like His Holiness in terms of qualities. However, they're lay. And we think His Holiness, not for every Tibetan, His Holiness is the main lama. For instance, next door where I live, there's someone called Kitty Rinpoche. He comes from a place where His Holiness was born, that area, Amdo. It's not exactly the area where His Holiness comes from, but it's still part of the same province, Amdo. And in the area where he's from, he's like His Holiness. His Holiness is not the center and the altar, it's him, and His Holiness maybe next to him. So the way we see His Holiness as the main lama, in their area, it's Kitty Rinpoche. We think His Holiness is for every Tibetan. No, that's not true. In some areas in Tibet, there were others. It's in exile now that His Holiness has taken on this position, and also probably in some areas in Amdon, but not everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, this is a little bit at the side, but this is just to mention. But you don't have to be a monk or nun, in other words. If you find you can practice better as a lay person, don't become a monk. If it's, you see, like when I first encountered monks and nuns, I thought, ooh, right? And only when I thought, oh, maybe that's good for me. That's a nice thing. And that was only the beginning. And I did a lot of research on that. I asked people about other monks and nuns, what are the difficulties? And although it was just a few months, but I didn't know anything else. So it was really like I did nothing else but research it until I thought, I can do this. I can do it. And I can do it even up to, I mean, my worry was, I only had a high school degree. And I thought, if I do this now and I give it up when I'm in my mid-30s, what am I going to do? I'm going to wash plates at McDonald's. I have no degree. I have nothing. What am I going to do? So I needed to be sure this is something I can do my whole life, and I want to do my whole life. And I didn't jump into it easily, although it was just a few months, but it was so intense. Didn't do anything else. And then I knew I want to do it. I'm ready. Then I did it. But I would have never done it if I was like, not really. No, don't need to do it. Don't jump into it. It's not about one is better than the other. You can practice just as well. And when you know it's the right time, you do it. And if not, you don't. Not necessary. Is that so sometimes it's suggested being a monk or nun is better, but that's not true. Okay, sorry, this is a little bit off topic, to be honest. It is a little bit off topic. And I want to go back, definitely, I haven't done a meditation yet. Okay, so this is, sorry, it'll come. But the thing is, okay, going back to dependent origination, I'm going back to it for this afternoon anyway, but maybe allow me to summarize, and also about the practical ideas of it, of course. But to just move away from everything I said just now, the chit-chat is over now. So going back to dependence on causes and conditions. That is so important. Cause and effect are one of the most important topics in Buddhism. And I'm sure you get a sense why. But in particular, when it comes to generating compassion, which of course needs to be preceded by closeness towards sentient being, a loving attitude towards others, an acceptance of others, a concern for others' well-being. In other words, cherishing others. It's the best way to find happiness, so that's a motivating factor for us. But of course, in general, for our spiritual progress, for the world, that is the best kind of approach. Which is why cause and effect need to be taken into consideration. Someone annoys us, causes and conditions. Someone difficult to love, causes and conditions, right? Where do they come from? Even if they're driven by a power by the greed for power, that is still an object of compassion, because it's like being addicted to a drug that will never bring you lasting happiness. I'm actually purposely thinking of politicians who act in a way. We can't even get the chance to get to know them. We see them as totally negative and we resent them. And that resentment is not going to change the policies. I mean, we can go when we have the chance to vote, and we actually can make an effort to vote them out, give our own vote, and that may not even make a difference if everyone else wants to. So to accept that as well, but to not hate them or resent them, rather to have compassion for them. Because all their actions, they're harming themselves. We're not condoning their actions by having compassion for them. We can be very critical and even resent their actions. That type of resentment is not harmful. It's harmful if it's directed at the person. Differentiate between the person and that. And in that way, resentment is no longer able to govern our life. Dislike, even indifference, because sometimes indifference can be terrible. I don't care. That's terrible. We should care for the victims. I mean, if we give them some thought, not like, oh, far away from home, I don't care. No. That is almost the type of resentment, if you like. I mean, just being indifferent. But even having compassion for the perpetrators, we are not betraying those victims. To have, of course, compassion, in particular for them, what they're going through now, with a compassion for the perpetrators is for what they're going to have to experience in the future. But also thinking, can you be truly happy when you know you've killed so many people? When you're always worried someone will take away your power? When you always have to watch your back? In the olden days, have someone taste your food because it could be poisoned. Nowadays, wherever you go, a sniper in the right kind of place could make all the difference to you existing or being a president of a country or not. You see, I don't think it's a peaceful life as a president of a place who causes a lot of turmoil and a lot of suffering. It's terrible. I would not want to be certain presidents. We all know who I'm talking about, I guess. Right? There's a handful or maybe some more. I do not want place. I'd rather be here with no power and with no water than being the president of certain countries to destroy my own future in a terrible way. So if we think like that, do I want to be that person? That's all you need to do. If you find you really dislike that person, just ask yourself, would you want to be them? Do you want to be them? Do you really want to be them? Understand what their life is like, or kind of use common sense. Do I really want to be them? I wouldn't want to be Taylor Swift, to be honest. Right? She's so popular and but the pressure on her and what she's used to, like here to give an example, I'm not talking about a president starting wars or, I don't know, is responsible for the problems of so many people. I'm talking about someone really famous we may admire. Do I want to have all these people all the times, like wanting to be in my presence, but just because they want to be famous themselves, not knowing who I can trust, having the pressure on me, having stuff written on me online? My external is so important. I can never eat the food I like because I have to have these long, crazy Barbie legs or whatever, right? I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but I no way want to be that, not for a single day, because I have no freedom. So really, when you think, you see yourself envious of someone, put yourself into their shoes and think, is their life so much better? If you're attached to someone, is my life so much better always being with that person? If you're resentful towards someone, really look at it from all angles. Don't just believe in your own fantasies, what your mind suggests you, right? If a person looks like Brad Pitt, they're not Brad Pitt necessarily. You see what I'm saying? Like, when I had these fantasies about boys, for instance, I imagined them to be in a certain way in which they weren't. I wanted them to be that way, and then I imagined they were. And then I became attached to my imagination. Oh, they would be perfect husbands, and with them I'm going to have beautiful children. I mean, and they turned out not to have these qualities that, when I got to know them, whether for whatever reason I realized, oh, lucky, I didn't. Okay, I'm lucky I didn't. But I fantasized I had these things because it made me feel good. So with attachment, there's a lot of fantasy involved. A lot of fantasy. We want it to be in a certain way. We visualize how nice it would be, and we're attached to that version. When we say attachment exaggerates what's actually there, well, resentment does the same. We see them as worse as they are. We imagine the worst things they're doing, and that's also not always true. But with attachment, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I had these fantasies that I knew. I knew it. I knew that I didn't know this was true. And still I chose to believe them because it made me feel so good to just imagine I was with that person. So I even knew it wasn't true, and I still went for it. I was attached to how it made me feel. I thought it was that person, and then later on I realized they weren't like that at all. I mean, maybe sometimes, but not most of the time. Am I making sense? So this fantasy, check your own fantasies. Am I just making it up, or do I have incontrovertible proof that this is true? Are they just like that in front of others? How do I know what they're like in person? So to always analyze, to always check. Don't trust your own mind. Yeah? With attachment, the same thing. Think of the things that we're attached to. They are usually our greatest pains come from our greatest attachments. If you have the attachment to be successful and you're not, that's your greatest problem. If you have the attachment towards being famous and you're not, that's your greatest problem. If you have the attachment to always having pleasant experiences, you see, like, whatever is the greatest attachment, if you have the attachment towards a person, you have the attachment to be with them, but you're not, that's your greatest suffering. So you can always check, what is your greatest suffering, and then check which attachment is involved. Don't deal with the person, deal with the object, deal with your attachment. And find how it deceives you. How we allow our mind to be deceived by this attachment. How the fact that it makes us feel good just thinking of them in a particular way, and then believing that to be reality. Mixing what's there and mixing reality. That is so important. So if any problem you have, check what is the desire behind it. When I first became a nun, I had this attachment to be seen as a pure, great nun, which of course was not that unrealistic because I had new vows. I hadn't broken any vows. I was like, they were clean. So I wanted others to see me in that way. And when they accused me of being after that monk, wow, it was painful because they destroyed my reputation. They would talk. I mean, I don't know whether they talked to each other. I suppose they did, because they were all talking, and when I came, they suddenly stopped. And one person then told me, he thinks you're after him. So he must have told, other people, because the person who told me was not this monk. So I was like, wow, I'm actually keeping my vows, and they think I don't. It was my attachment to, what do I care? I kept my vows, that's what counts, right? If they thought I was a pure nun and I wasn't, that would be a problem. But here it was the other way around. I wasn't breaking my vows. I was keeping my vows purely, and they thought I wasn't. So my attachment to being a pure nun wasn't, but my attachment was to other people thinking that. That was my problem, you see? So I had to work through it and understand it doesn't make me better or worse, whatever people think. I am what I am. It doesn't make me worse. So it's most important is, do I have the vows? Do I keep them purely? Let them think whatever they think. Sooner or later they'll find out. And they did. They did find out. I mean, nothing came of it. This person is now married with kids somewhere else. I'm still here, so yeah. But I wanted it right away. I couldn't bear it in that moment. That's also our thing. Our attachment wants right and now. Right away. It cannot. So this is why we do crazy things. We go out and have unprotected sex because it's like long-term. No. Attachment wants immediate gratification. It cannot think in the long term. I wanted immediately for them to stop saying I was a bad nun. I was not keeping my vows. I was interested in guys. In the long term, they found out I wasn't. So now no one says this. But my attachment wouldn't allow me to do that. So what was the problem? The main problem, of course, the fake rumors, they were a problem. But the main problem was my attachment. And when I could reduce that, thank you, got my freedom back. Say whatever you want, right? That was my liberation. It came later, it took time, of course. But now it's no longer in the back of my mind. I can laugh about it. I can tell everyone about it. Some years ago, I would have hidden it from everyone because I was too embarrassed. I was embarrassed. Actually embarrassed by my own attachment. Because resentment. If I talked about it, I became resentful. It was obvious. It was really like a whole issue for me. And I was embarrassed by that because I knew intellectually this shouldn't upset me. But it still did. So I just didn't talk about it. Now I can make fun of myself. How initially he always took off, and I tried even harder to be friends with him until I realized he took off because he misunderstood my friendliness. Because in the very beginning, I just thought he didn't like me. So my attachment to being liked made me go out of my way to be nice to him. But then him being a monk, he misunderstood, and he took off even more. And I tried even harder, and he misunderstood even more. And it was all my attachment. It was all my attachment. Attachment to different things, being liked and accepted by the Sangha, being seen as a pure nun. I can give you the names of each attachment, or the objects of each attachment. It all came down to that. So I blamed the external. They were just the trigger. The main thing were my past actions and my attachment. Karma and afflictions. Oh yeah. Oh, in this case, it wasn't the other, right? It took me some time. But I learned my lesson, hopefully. Yeah. So you see, and you go through the same. Because I went through the same, I know what it's like. And I still go through the same. But I've made some improvements. Okay. Anyway, see you for lunch. And we'll continue with the other types of dependent originations in the evening. And we still have a little bit on compassion. We have still some time. So we still have some time left, in other words. Yeah. We have got 4, tomorrow 2, 4 sessions. 5, 6 more sessions. So I'll definitely be able to finish everything in time. All right. Enjoy lunch and see you at 2. I have to go and see a doctor. In the meantime, I may be a little bit late, but I'll let Shubham know, and we will catch up on whatever. If it's again like 15 minutes or whatever, I'll let him know, and then you'll find out.